So as you mentioned, someone last week asked us to dive a little deeper into how required minimum distributions are calculated and how much taxable income they may expect.
Okay, so required minimum distributions, also known as RMDs, are really a critical component of retirement. And I get asked about them all the time, and I'm not surprised. Last week, we did a little piece on, some of the factors that go into required minimum distribution, some of the things that we think are important, and it's one of the things we deal with constantly. And then this week, somebody wanted a follow up, more in depth, basically, and how the calculation happens and what have you. How much taxes could they expect to come out and those types of things. So very, very fascinating area because, that if you mess up the calculation, the penalty is pretty severe. It's a 50% penalty. If you're supposed to take out 20,000 and you didn't, then you're going to end up with a $10,000 penalty, which nobody wants. So this is why everybody's asking. So let me just quickly, I'll share my screen and essentially share, you with how this might work. All right. Give me an example. So very simply, I don't like to use a lot of words in my, presentation here, but this is, probably necessary. This is how it's calculated. They take the balance for the end of the year for your retirement accounts, and they divide it by this life expectancy calculator to get your RMD. And so again, if you're looking at, hey, I turned 72 this year, I would look at last year, the very last day, how much did I have in my retirement accounts? And I would divide that by the life expectancy factor. So this factor comes from a table, which is right here. Again, a lot of small print here, but I'll just try to get the overall theme, which is just you look up your age. So again, let's say you're turning 72 this year. You find this factor, 25.6. Okay. So we would take that, and I'll get back to this again. And let's just say you have $1 million in your retirement plans. You're going to divide that by 25.6. And that's going to equal $39,062.50. You have to take out at least that. You can take out more. That's not an issue. You can't take out less because, again, anything lower than that, they're going to charge you a 50% penalty for missing that. So somewhat important to get that right. It's one of the things we work on with our clients all the time to make sure that we got the requirement of distributions right. There's all kinds of ramifications here because this is taxable income that's coming out onto your tax return, whether you want it or not. And so there's some strategies there, but in essence, that's an important component of what you've got to do. And so if we go back, just some quick comments about this table that are interesting because questions I get all the time. Number one is, how much taxable income am I going to get? So I'll show you an example here in just a moment for that $1 million case. But we'll look at this. What happens is every number is getting smaller. So at 73, it's 24.7. At 74, it's 23.8. If you divide by a smaller number, you're taking out a higher percentage every year of that account. So that's important. So higher percentage every single year will come out of your account. Now, the other thing that's important to understand is that because other people ask, will I run out of money in my IRA or will the income stop? If you just take out the minimum distribution and follow this table, you will not run out of money in that account. Now, your income may go down or up depending on what happens to the value of your account. But if you look here at 115, they're still dividing by 1.9. And so until you divide by 1, when you divide by 1, that's 100%. That means all of it comes out. You still have money in that account. So you would have money until, in this particular case, at least 115 years old if you just followed the minimum. So it's a way to kind of create a pension in a way out of that. Again, it does fluctuate depending on the value of the account. And so I'll show you what this would look like. So we've taken this $1 million case, and here, you remember the 39,000 that we had to take out, right? Let's just assume that it's in a 60% stock and 40% bond portfolio. And we'll use the average rates of return for that. Now, life is not a straight line. The market goes up and down. You would never see this, come out this smoothly because the account values are going over. But over a period of time, you should be gaining something in this account. Plus, you have to take out a higher percentage every year because that factor is getting to be smaller. And so you can see what happens here. this continues to grow all the way up until, maybe $145,000, $150,000 here. And then it finally starts to turn down. Now, this is all the way out to age 100. And what that means is when it turns down, it means that the amount has exceeded the value of the account, and exceeded the growth in the value of the account. So and I'll show you the account. This is what the account looks like. Lots of people ask me, would I still have money left? Well, it depends on your rate of return. But if you had the average rate of return for a 60% stock portfolio, 40% bond, your account would theoretically grow under this all the way from $1 million to 1.4 million, and then eventually come back down all the way, to age 100, where it's about, 900,000. So still, some money is in there for your beneficiaries if that matters to you, as far as that goes. So in essence, that's how it works. And this table is the factor that we look at in terms of trying to figure out, what you take out, what is happening in terms of the overall piece. And there's a whole bunch of tax planning pieces that come around this particular aspect of your retirement. It's a really important point. It's why I get asked about it all the time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because next year they're updating the table. So I think for 70, it'll be around 20.6, I think,
Yeah.
29.6. And so it seems they're pushing out as we live longer and changing with the demographic.
Yeah, what he's just talking about is right. So right now at age 70, the top of this chart here is 27.4. If they move that to 29.6, all of these numbers will move up. And what they're doing is trying to account for life expectancy increase. And that's a good thing because that means that you'll be forced to take out less and it'll even last longer. And so again, this is something we can revisit again next year after they change that. But that's an important component of what's going on there.
Yeah, so in the chart that you were just showing, the minimum distributions just keep growing and may be more than someone needs. Is there a way to lower them?
Yeah, that's a good point. And matter of fact, I get that a lot. I mean, if you look at that chart in general, I'll go back to it real quickly here. Here's the projected income that might come out on an even rate of return. That somebody's in their 90s, do they really need $140,000 worth of income at that point in time? And that's the big problem. That's why I call this a tax time bomb. For those people that have large amounts of money in retirement accounts, you really need to do some planning. The window that we look at for really heavy planning is 15 years before retirement and 15 years after. And in that 30-year window is when you can really do a lot of different things. And so as soon as possible, you want to be able to take a look at the opportunity to convert some of these retirement plans into Roth IRAs. Doesn't work for everybody, but when it does work, it can work quite well. And what that does do is lower the potential tax that you have to pay long term on this retirement accounts because a Roth IRA grows tax free and you don't have to take it out. There is no requirement of distribution for a Roth. So that just gives you a really powerful scenario where you can let it grow and grow and grow tax free. So yeah, that's a good point, Katie. Actually, I think one of the things that's super important about, looking at what's going on with the requirement of distribution is really about that planning around that. It's a huge piece of the tax planning that we do. And honestly, from what I've seen, not many people are ready for this. They really haven't thought about it. They don't know enough about how it works, and they're going along and don't realize what's facing them. One advantage for us in our type of business is I'm meeting with hundreds of households every 6 months, and I've been able to see, oh boy, these people are having to pull a tremendous amount of money. It's a huge tax problem. It's increasing their Medicare costs. This is a huge issue to deal with. And so I've already gone down this path with so many clients. I can start with somebody, that's why I converted my IRAs and 401k already, even at my age, to Roth, just because I can see the future there. And I don't want this tax time bomb, and so almost no matter what age you are, you can start to work on that and even use some of your required minimum distribution income to pay some of the taxes to do a Roth conversion, for that year, a portion of your account. So you can just keep moving over. And that's a whole nother subject altogether, but it's still a piece of the puzzle here. Required minimum distributions are huge.